This is the question asked in today's skillrack daily challenge. So we will be given two strings as input. So both the strings will be made only using opening and closing parentheses. So our task is to find the maximum depth in the string 1, and in that maximum depth we have to insert this string 2 and we have to form a new output string. So first I will copy the given input string 1 and let us calculate the maximum depth in the given input string. So whenever it is a opening parenthesis, the depth increases, and whenever it is a closing parenthesis, the depth decreases. So first we have a opening and closing. So we move to depth 1 and we come back to depth 0. And then again we have a opening. So again we are moving to the depth 1. And again we have a opening parenthesis. So depth 2. And again we have a closing parenthesis. So from depth 2 we come back to depth 1. And then we have a opening parenthesis. So again from depth 1 we move to depth 2. And then again we have a opening parenthesis, so depth 3, and then we have a closing parenthesis. So again from depth 3 we come back to depth 2. So this particular space is nothing but the depth 3. So after this depth 3 we have 3 closing parentheses. So from depth 3 we will move to 2 1 and again we come back to depth 0 because we have 3 closing parentheses. And after that again we have 3 opening parentheses. So again from depth 0 we go back to depth 3. So in this place again the depth will be 3, and again we have 3 closing parentheses. So we move back to depth 0. So till now the maximum depth which we have found is depth 3, and again we have opening parenthesis opening. So in this cases we have depth 2. So in this given string 1, the maximum depth which we were able to find is depth 3. So we have to insert the string s2 in the depth 3. And here there are two occurrences of depth 3. So here also the depth is 3 and here also the depth is 3. So in these cases we have to insert the string 2 in the first occurrence of the maximum depth. So we have to ignore this position and we have to insert the string s2 at this particular place. So after inserting the string str2 at this particular place, this is how the string will be looking like. So our task is to print this modified string. So now let us see how to write a C program for this. So first I am creating two character arrays str1 and str2, and then using a scanf I am accepting both the strings as input, and then I am creating two more integer variables named max depth and depth, and initially I am setting both of them to 0. So now we are going to find the maximum depth. So in the first loop we will be finding the maximum depth, and in the second loop we will be inserting the string str2 into the maximum depth. So this loop iterates through str1. So in every iteration we will be checking whether the character is a opening parenthesis. So if it is an opening parenthesis, the depth increases. So if str of I is equal to opening parenthesis, then we are moving to the next depth. So we have to increment the variable depth. So we have to execute the condition depth plus plus, and after incrementing the depth, so in this loop our task is to find the maximum depth. So whenever the value of the depth increases, we are going to check whether it is greater than the maximum depth. So here another if condition, I am checking whether the depth is greater than maximum depth. If that is true, then we will set maximum depth is equal to depth. So this is how we will be calculating the maximum depth. And while iterating through str, if it is a closing parenthesis, then we move to the previous depth. So if the character is a closing parenthesis, then we have to execute the condition depth minus minus, because we will be moving to the previous depth. So finally after the execution of this loop, we would have calculated the maximum depth present in the string str1. So now the maximum depth is present in the variable named max depth. Now our task is to insert the string str2 at that maximum depth, and it should also be inserted only 1. So in order to do that, I am creating another integer variable named flag, and I am setting it to 0 initially. So now we are going to create another for loop, and in this for loop we will be inserting the string str2 at the maximum depth. So again we will be iterating through the character array str. So the I loop iterates, and in every iteration first we will print the character str of I, because anyway we have to print all the characters. So I am just printing the characters, and then again I'm going to check whether it is an opening parenthesis. So if it is an opening parenthesis, the depth increases, so depth plus plus, and if it is a closing parenthesis, the depth decreases, so depth minus minus. So at one point the depth will be definitely equal to maximum depth because we have already found it. So after incrementing the depth, I'm checking whether the depth is equal to max depth or not. So if the current depth is equal to max depth, then this is the place where we need to insert str2. So we are going to print str2 and I'm going to make flag is equal to 1. So when I update flag is equal to 1, then it will prevent inserting str2 again if there is a same depth found, because that is how it is given in the question. So if there are more than one place with same depth, then we have to consider only the first. So that is the reason we are making use of flag. So this is the logic to solve today's daily challenge. Thank you for watching.